We are live. Good to be live again. Hello, everybody who will be watching this podcast anytime, anywhere in the world. It's Inspirational Bar Podcast. Podcast created to inspire you to become better bartenders, to learn, to grow, and to become better people by knowing more, by understanding more, and by becoming a more professional, more better person in our industry. And I'm always trying to bring you this podcast on Wednesdays or once a week, and I'm very happy to have great people on them. And today I'm very proud to have as guest in my podcast. It took some time for us to arrange time because he's very busy man, and I understand that totally because time is very expensive thing, and you have to plan it. And but finally we have it here. I'm having it on my podcast, and I'm very happy to know his story as well, and to get inspiration myself, and of course to share that inspiration with you through this podcast. So for those who don't know, if there are some people who don't know such person, I want to present today global. Was thinking today. I would say not global. I would say universe brand ambassador because it's true. Universe brand ambassador of category of Rum, Ian Burrell. I'm very proud. Hi, Ian. How are you?
Hey, how are you? How are you? Thank you for the build up. I'm like, wow, universal ambassador.
Well, it's true. You're definitely global brand ambassador, and as we don't have the position of universal yet taken, so you can claim it really easy now.
I'm working. I'll get some rum up to Mars and Venus and Jupiter.
Exactly. You should put some rum in Elon Musk's spaceships when he will fly to Mars.
If we can send cocktails up to space, then we can definitely send rum up to space.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm really proud and I'm really excited to have you on my podcast because you achieved a lot. You are global brand ambassador of all category of rum, organizing rum festivals all over the world. The first one who organized, you just told me that you was the first one who organized the festival in 2007. So it's like 13 years ago when you started this. And we will get to that. At first, I would like to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
How everything started. I even know, I found out a bit that I'm not sure if you're doing that now, maybe, but you used to be a rapper or tried
Yeah.
I found that song and hey, it's cool.
No.
I mean, maybe these times it's different music, but come on. I think everybody who are singers would listen themselves 20 years ago and it would be different. But I mean, it's cool. I like that. That had a vibe. So okay, but how did you get into drinks? You probably wanted to be a singer as well, and no, I'll go to the drinks totally. I mean, how did you get involved, and how everything built up to the point where you are today? Like a well-known man in rum industry, the most important man in rum industry, actually.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's funny because for me, I always believe that if you're going to do something, you do it to the best of your ability. You try to do it well. And I love doing lots of things. I enjoy life. I enjoy having fun. I enjoy making people laugh. So when I was in school, after I left school to go to further education, actually I was supposed to go to drama school. And my best friend actually said, "Oh, why don't we take some time off and hang out, and have some fun?" I'm like, "So what are we going to do?" And he says, "Oh, we should go and get a job inside a restaurant and a bar." I'm like, "Why?" He says, "Oh, you're gonna have fun. We'll make some cocktails, do this and this." And so I was like, "Okay, let's try it. Let me try it for like 6 months." And during those 6 months of being behind a bar, making cocktails, learning drinks, even flaring back in the days.
Oh, cool. What year was that when you?
This would be 1990. Sorry, 1990.
1990. So it was still when cocktail culture was not very. I mean,
I mean, the film Cocktail had been out a couple years. So the big type of bartending at the time was flair bartending. TGI Fridays was the big thing. My first bar manager was an ex-TGI Friday manager. So for us, it was all about entertaining when we were on the bar. So not only doing some flaring, but also making fun drinks. And that was the part that I really enjoyed more than the flaring. It was more about creating fun drinks using all these different ingredients that were behind the bar and trying to make them taste better in a cocktail, or creating new flavors in the cocktail. And of course, you made those drinks and the customers loved it, and they gave you loads of money in tips. And I was making so much money on tips. I was, wow, do I really want to go to further education? So I never went back to school. I stayed working in the bar, and then have been for over 30 years now. So
a lot.
So it was fun. It was fun then. It was a great experience, and because of bartending, it's helped me become a man, because I was a boy then, and it helped me become a man because I learned so many things, met so many people. So that's how I started off in the bar industry. It was my best friend said, let's work behind the bar. And everything I wanted to achieve in school, I achieved through working in the bar. I got to meet the right people. I got to do the right things and be in the right place at the right time. And it also helped things like my music career and TV and things like that as well. So everything evolved around me being behind the bar.
Wow, interesting, very interesting. So how everything went later? Let's say you got involved into the bar. How did you build up to the Rum, let's say, to Rum festivals? And actually, when you've been behind the bar, did you take competitions, or it wasn't much at the time? Because I was very young and not connected to bar industry then, so I have no idea. But I know that now it's much different. Everything we have talked to many people and studied the history of this a bit. So how was it? It's always
very different back then. There wasn't many competitions, and when competitions did arrive, it was flair competitions. It wasn't mixology competitions. So you made your name in the bar industry because there wasn't no social media. That's like internet just starting. You made your name by impressing the customers, and the customers would go and tell their friends, oh, you should go to that bar because that bartender's there. So bartenders built up their name just by reputation, by customers going to their bars and having a great time and then telling other people about them. And that's how I built my name up, just through word of mouth. People talking about me and say, oh, that guy behind the bar, he's funny, he's this, he makes some good drinks. So I built up my name that way. And that's how I got found out by certain other people in other industries, like music and voiceovers, which I did for radio and TV, which then led me into working with a Jamaican rum company. My family's Jamaican, so I'm Jamaican. So I had my first rum when I was about 4 days old. That's a Jamaican style. When you're a baby, you have a little bit of rum. So I always had rum in my family, in my blood.
That's true.
So through connections, working in the bar and meeting the right people, I did some radio commercials for a Jamaican rum company. They then found out me being a Jamaican, and I worked in a bar. They said, oh, can we bring the rum to your bar? I'm like, yeah, no problem. And then they hired me in the mid-90s to be a brand ambassador. I was the first brand ambassador, rum ambassador in the UK in the mid-90s, representing a rum called Ray and Nephew and Appleton. So I became the Appleton and Ray and Nephew ambassador, but also bartending. And what the idea was to have a bartender to talk to other bartenders about the rum. So again, being the first ambassador to do that, other ambassadors were marketeers and had no idea about how to work in a bar. And it just built up that way. And then I was being asked to talk about Appleton in other countries for Appleton in Europe. And then eventually Australia and New Zealand in 2003. And while I was in Australia and New Zealand, I was being asked questions about other rums and I didn't have the answers. So I realized I needed to learn more about the rum category to become a better ambassador for Appleton rum. And that's when I traveled around the Caribbean, took all my savings, went around the Caribbean and just learnt from blenders, distillers, people drinking the rum in the Caribbean.
Of
Came
course.
back, yeah, yeah, came back to the UK and then told those stories. And that's when people started calling me the Rum Man. And that's when I decided I wanted to be called the Rum Ambassador, because I was an ambassador for the category of rum. So I gave myself my own title.
Wow, wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and that's how it started. That's how it started.
Wow, it's very interesting. So it's very important to learn, and that's very inspiring. You know, all the journey, and that nothing comes so easy. You know, you had to put efforts and go to the Caribbean, learn everything. Wow, that's very interesting, Jan.
Yeah, too. I mean, even things like working behind the bar. My bar manager used to say, "Test me every day." He would say, "Right, tomorrow I'm going to come and you have to make me a cocktail using a new product every day." So every day, and I also had to tell a story about the product. So I had to go behind a bar. It could be Jack Daniels, it could be Southern Comfort, it could have been a rum, it could have been Bacardi. I had to make a cocktail using that product, but I also had to tell a story about the brand that was there. So
Wow.
what it did, it meant that as a bartender, I knew my tools, my equipment. I knew about every single product behind my bar. I could tell a story about it, the year it was made, or who made it, or which country it came from, recommended in a cocktail. And by him doing this to me every day, it meant like by the time it was like 3-4 months, I like had 100 drinks in my head for 100 different spirits.
Wow.
And someone could walk in from Jack Daniels and say, "Oh, you know, I'm from Jack Daniels, and I love what's called Tennessee whiskey," or so they might say bourbon, because they don't know about Tennessee whiskey and bourbon. I correct them and say, no, it's Jack Daniels is a Tennessee sipping whiskey. It's not a bourbon. And then I'll make them a cocktail in that way. Or it might be someone from Bacardi, and I tell them about Bacardi being created in 1862 by Facundo Bacardi from Barcelona, who came over to Cuba. So I'll do that, and then maybe make them a daiquiri. So it was always telling that stories, because when you told those stories to the customer who didn't know anything about the industry, the first thing they said, it was like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize this. More tips." But also they then treated you with a respect, because they gave you, because you're a professional. Back then, bartenders weren't seen as professionals. It was a job that you did before you got a real job. So, so my grandparents, my mom used to say, "When are you going to get a real job? When are you going to get a real job?" Because they're never
waiting.
So it's very, very important.
Wow, it's very interesting. Yeah, that's funny. There's a lot of people still thinking that bartending is just a job before the real job nowadays as well.
Yeah.
You know? But I guess it's always going to be like that. You know, some people who like a lot of people who thinks like that, and then it depends. It depends what bartenders do people meet in their way, I guess. If we meet these people who pour them beer and that's it, so it's one kind of people. And if we meet people, bartenders like yourself, who can tell stories and educate people, and person leaves a bar more clever, more like educated, more like then tasted some combination. That's what we should do as a bartenders. I believe that's where the value creates. Very interesting, you know. Like
we're creating, as bartenders, we're creating a service. We're creating a very important service. Nobody goes into a bar. No one I know of goes into a bar to have a bad time. You go into a bar to have a good time. So you can sit at the bar, which I think is very important for a bar. If you can sit at the bar, or even more important, if you can go into a bar by yourself and have a good time, because the bartender looks after you and gives you that service and makes you feel like you're part of the family, and you have a great experience by yourself, then that's a great bar. And that's an important task to have, being a bartender, to be that host, to be that person who welcomes someone into your bar to sit on the other side of the counter and have a good drink, and you make their day as such. So it's very, very important, and it's not a skill that you can just get automatically. It's something you work on.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. So okay, how things happened next after you became like known as a rum man? How did you get to the point where you started the Rum Festival, and then?
Oh, okay, yeah. So what it was I realized that rum as a category was so big and so huge, and I was learning things every day, but there were a lot of people around me that didn't learn as quickly as me because they weren't in the industry. So they would come into a bar and they'll say, "I'll have a a dark rum, and then you'd say to them, where would you want the rum from? Jamaica, Barbados? And they're like, rum's all the same. and that frustrated me, because you'd see people ask for Scotch whiskey or Irish whiskey or American whiskey, but they'll never say, can I have a Jamaican rum instead of a Barbados rum, or instead of a Puerto Rican rum, or instead of a Cuban rum. So I wanted to try to create an event, a show like the whiskey shows or like the wine shows and the beer shows, where you had a diverse collection of rums from all over the world, that made people understand that rums is multi what's called layered, what's called category, and it's diverse, and there are different styles. And of course, more importantly, get them to understand that there were rums that you could sip, drink neat, like you drink a whiskey or brandy, not just something you're just going to mix. So I saw a couple of events in the Caribbean and took elements from there. I saw the whiskey shows, I took elements from there. I saw the wine shows and the beer shows, took elements from there. And in 2007, created the world's first international Rum Festival, where it was in Victoria in London, and then we had about 1,500 people over 2 days come there to sample and taste rums from all over the world. And it was great, because it meant that people could see rums in a different way, but more importantly, they could talk to the people that made the rums as well. So they could talk to master blenders, master distillers, brand ambassadors. And these brand ambassadors and these master blenders and distillers had never really spoken to the bartender before, the industry. Some online, but not live. So we had a lot of bartenders, a lot of industry people came to the first shows in 2007. And a lot of people came there and from other countries as well, and saw this, and they said, wow, you know what? I want to do this in my country in a couple of years' time. So we had the guy that organized the German Rum Festival, the French Rum Festival, the Paris Rum Festival, the original Miami festival, because there's two now. There's three now, Miami. We had guys from Madrid, and we had so many people from around the world that saw the Rum Fest and said, we should be doing this in our country. And I just helped and consulted on these companies and these other countries, just to get people to understand rum as a category. So that has been one of my jobs, to get people to understand rum.
Wow, you really did a great job, because rum is my favorite drinks category. So it's probably in one way or another, somehow it's connected to what you've done in the world about the rum.
I'd like to think so. I'd like to think it's not just me. There's some great rum ambassadors out there that work for brands. There's some great bartenders, of course, that promote rums in various different cocktails and drinks. As well, and some great new brands, old brands that are doing great jobs in pushing the category. So it's a team effort. But the good thing about it is we're going in the right direction for people to understand the rum category. So that's why I'm happy. That's why I've always had a big smile on my face.
Yeah, very good, very good. So okay, and so we got all your story now, and how was it? How was the last Rum Festival? Now it was a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah. Of course. So this year was our 14th Rum Festival. It was the most challenging because of pandemic. So we couldn't do our normal. We'd normally get anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 people over 3 days at a venue in London, where they come there, sample. We have masterclasses, seminars, live tastings, exhibitions, and then we have events around London as well. So what we did, because we couldn't do the big exhibition, we focused just on the masterclasses and tastings.
Okay.
And even that was a challenge, because the bar where we were doing the tastings, we could only have a limited amount of people in that bar because of social distancing.
Yeah.
So what we did was we focused on online tastings. But we also had some live tastings in the bar, and we filmed it. So we had the cameras, we filmed that, and then we had our speakers from other parts of the world tuning in on a big screen in the venue. So you could do a live tasting with the master blender, the master distiller of certain rums in the venue, or you could join online and be part of like a Zoom or a StreamYard masterclass presentation. So there were many ways of getting involved, either being there, being online. You could taste there. You could taste online as well, because you could buy little packs of the rums and get them sent to your home so you could taste and be a part of the tasting. And then we're making videos of that because this is very recent, and we'll have that online as well for people that couldn't make it or couldn't see it, and they could watch on YouTube throughout the year as we lead up to next year. So it was different this year because it was mainly virtual, but we still had a lot of people that came down to our bar in London that we took over and was part of the live tasting, and they loved that because they felt that this year they would never ever sit down with other people and taste and talk rum like they've done for the last few years. So it was good. It was good. It's different.
Yeah, definitely. Everything changed in the world now, and yeah, I'm happy that the Rum Festival didn't disappear.
Yeah, that's true. We couldn't make it disappear.
I'm happy that it changed, evolved, maybe, or just how to say it, because
or adapted.
Exactly, adapted, and it's still there, still on, and I'm very happy because I've never been to Rum Festival. Like I could.
Oh wow.
Yeah, if I could admit you, I wanted to go, like we talked a bit in
the Miami one,
yeah, Miami one, but I was working a lot and just moved to Miami, so work was more important, not than to go somewhere at the point. But I'll definitely.
We have the Miami Rum Congress for February 2021, so to make sure that we get you down, invite you. I'll be at the Hilton Hotel in North Beach. So we just signed a deal with them last week to do the Rum Fest there. So we'll have the Rum Fest at the Hilton Hotel, North Beach, the Miami Rum Congress, and that'll be February 2021. So in about 4 months time.
4 months, yeah, cool. That's definitely. I would make some space in my schedule and will come for sure. Are you going to be there?
I'll definitely be there. It's my event. So I'll definitely it'll be. We do a trade event on the first day, just master classes with some of the best rum speakers from around the world. If they can't come in, then they'll be on a big screen. And on the second day, that's when we do the tasting, the exhibition, where people can get sample and taste rums from all over the world. So yeah, it'll be a two-day event.
Okay, great. I'll see you there. I'll see you there. Okay, and now talking, we already listened to your story, and it's very interesting and very inspiring. And for me, I'm very excited to hear the stories of the people who really achieved a lot and how they did that. And now I would like to ask you, like when we already came to the Rum Festival and this year, so how do you see the future for bartending and drinks industry now with this COVID situation, and what will change? Because definitely will change, things. You probably was thinking, like a philosophical thought. Sometimes, you think, oh, the world will shape like that or like that. So what's your take on that? What do you think will change? What will be different? What will be influenced the most in bartending and drinks industry when it already become norm? Because now we are still in some kind of in process, but when it will become a norm, some kind of norm, what norm that would be? What will be changed?
I think one of the first and most immediate things that will happen when the new norm happens, this is when I say the new norm, this is where people can go out to bars and to restaurants and feel confident that they're going to be safe, not catching the illness and disease. I think the biggest thing that will come out of this pandemic is the fact that a lot of people that were drinking spirits at home and cocktails at home will appreciate the bartender a lot more. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people over the last 6 months of lockdown were making cocktails at home, or they were watching videos of bartenders showing them how to make cocktails. So it's elevated the bartender's talent and the bartender's skill, just the same ways that we have celebrity chefs on TV. People try to cook at home because they copy the celebrity chefs, and then they take these chefs' ideas or the recipe, they twist it and give it to themselves. But when they go out to a restaurant, they then appreciate the food even more because they know how hard it is to make that dish, or they know certain types of flavors. Now they've seen bartenders either making videos online, showing how to make cocktails. People are making these cocktails at home. They're buying online and they're buying a lot online because all the online companies I know around the world, their sales have gone up because people are drinking at home and they're making cocktails at home. So people are drinking at home, making cocktails at home, and drinking better and quality. So that's the other thing as well. So they'll go to these bars and they'll go to these restaurants and they'll see the bartender. The bartender will make certain types of drinks. And because they've tried to make these drinks and they weren't as easy, or they've made these drinks and they've realized, wow, you know what, the flavors were intense. They were just so great. Or they may have bought takeaway cocktails from their favorite bars or restaurants. They now have the appetite for really good quality drinks and quality drinks that have been made well. So when they go to the bars, I'm guessing that they will appreciate the bartender a lot more than what they did before in general, because you know how hard the bartender has to work. You know how hard it is to make these types of drinks. You know the craft that goes behind putting some of these flavor profiles together. And that's what I'm expecting to see. So I'm hoping to see this as well. So I think that'll be the major big thing, not only in the US or in the UK, but around the world. The fact that people will appreciate premium cocktails, premium drinks, and the art behind making drinks by the bartender. And the fact that they miss going to these bars. You can make a really great cocktail at home with you and your family, but it'll never taste the same as when you're inside a bar and the atmosphere is, the music's there and you're out, because you pay for the experience. You don't just pay for the drink, you pay for the experience. So people will appreciate the experience, they'll appreciate the drinks, they'll appreciate the bartender more. And that's what I feel will come out of this pandemic global lockdown, is the appreciation of the bartender and the bar industry. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I expect.
Okay, cool. I would like that too. Wouldn't be against at all. Okay, Jan. And Jan, what could you say? I know you also been. I'll ask you a couple different, similar and different questions. You know, you also probably been a judge in many cocktails competitions as well.
Yes.
I think we met, but not. Maybe we didn't talk, so we didn't meet very much in person. But I think you've been a judge in Global Havana Cocktail Competition in 2014. I think.
Yeah. I think I've judged maybe like four global finals in Cuba.
Oh, okay. So probably you've been.
I think I did 2000, 2010, 2012, 2014. 2014. Did I do 2016? Maybe 2016. But I've judged a few cocktail competitions for Havana Club, not only in Cuba but in other countries in Europe as well. The Grand Prix. I love the Grand Prix. It's one of my favorite competitions. And one of the things I always say about being a judge in these cocktail competitions is that you get free drinks from some of the best bartenders in the world.
That's true.
It's brilliant. You're sitting down there, you got some of the best bartenders in the world making you free cocktails and you're drinking them. And also, as a bartender, not as I don't bartend as much as I used to, getting older now, but as a bartender, I'm also learning different techniques from different bartenders around the world. So I'll see something, I'm like, wow, that looks amazing. I'm going to do that. So when I go behind a bar, I do different things and people say, wow, that looks really good. Because I have some of the best teachers in the world, and the best teachers in the world are bartenders in all these cocktail competitions. So that's one of my favorite parts of being a global ambassador for rum, is the fact that I get invited to judge a lot of these cocktail competitions, which helps me become a better bartender and also gets me to drink a lot of free good cocktails.
That's really a very good thing. Yeah, I would like to do that.
Was you in the final? Was you in the final? Or was you a guest?
Yeah. No, I've been in the final. I think it's 2014 or 15, but I think it's 14 because we do every second year. So
Which country were you representing?
Lithuania.
Oh, Lithuania. Yeah, probably did see you there. Yeah,
probably a long time ago it was. So that's what I'm saying. We met, but not met like met.
Yeah. Well, I did judge the European finals for Angostura in Lithuania. In Vilnius. So I was in Vilnius. Is it Vilnius? Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was in Vilnius a few years back, maybe like six or 7 years ago. and it was brilliant. I loved it. So we were judging the Angostura European finals. So all the finalists from all over Europe came to Vilnius to represent their countries in Europe. And then we had to pick four winners to fly to represent Europe in the World Finals. The World Finals was in Trinidad, which again happened every 2 years. And again, that was another amazing competition because it always happened at Carnival time in Trinidad.
Wow.
So
never been.
That was the only time I've been to Lithuania to judge a cocktail competition, and that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
I remember that competition as well. I wasn't a participant. I mean, not in the final already that year. Yeah, I remember. So, Jan, I wanted to ask you, as you've seen a lot of competitions and bartenders, what do you think is a winning edge? Why want some people? Where is that? Because it's probably just in the details. Because everybody can do the whole thing, but where is the difference between? Let's say I always say it. Number one is probably a bit luck as well, but number three, I mean, first three people, it's work. It's definitely work. So, what is the difference between people who get to first three and people who don't get to first three?
Well, it's funny because. Good question, because a lot of people know me because of rum, but I meet a lot of bartenders around the world that know me because of the videos I used to do called "How to Lose a Cocktail Competition," and I've done these on YouTube. I did these about 6-7 years ago.
I think I saw, but somehow no, didn't connect.
They're all funny. They're all funny videos. It's about bartender. Basically, the concept is if you do what I do or do what happens in a video, you will lose the competition. So just don't do what happens inside the video.
Okay.
Things like not understanding who your judge is. You should always understand who your judge is because they're the customer, like a regular customer. So make a cocktail for your judge. Also, know your ingredients, know your product. If you have a cocktail competition and let's say it's a rum competition, don't put other spirits inside your cocktail even more than the sponsored brand, because the judges are looking for the sponsored brand and you've just drowned it with other products. Understand your equipment. So if you have a cocktail shaker that's very hard to open, and when you're making your cocktail, don't use it. Make sure you have the right equipment, your tools, your tongs, your stirrers. Make sure you have the right equipment. When your ingredients, making sure you make enough just for the cocktails and the competition. You don't need to bring excess of the product. So there's lots of little tiny things, but essentially the person that wins is the person that makes a cocktail not to lose, not to win, but not to lose. So you have to make sure you read all the instructions, all the rules of the competition, and make sure your cocktail complies to that, and make sure you have that. If you have a competition where it's like the Angostura competition, where it's 7 minutes to make 2 cocktails, don't talk about your drink for 4 minutes if it takes 4 minutes to make your cocktails. Because that's 8 minutes, you've gone 1 minute over, you've lost.
True.
Make a drink while you're talking. Practice. Make your drink for your friend, in front of your friends. Make it in front of your customers. Do it so it's like you're like a robot. Because the best bartender doesn't win cocktail competitions. It's the best presenter wins cocktail competitions.
Okay.
So you can be the best bartender in the world. It doesn't mean you're going to win competitions. And likewise, you could win lots of competitions and you could be a terrible bartender. Two different things.
True as well.
Cocktail competitions is not real bartending. It's a show. It's about being a showman and a showwoman. That's what it's about. It's about making your drink, presenting it in such a way. The judges have tick boxes to make sure you do all the things they want, and you do all those things, and then you add your little bit of difference on top to make sure yours is different from number 1, number 2, number 3.
Okay.
So it's adding layers of all the things you need to do not to lose the competition.
All right.
And that's how you win competitions. I mean, some of the drinks I've tried in competitions have been absolutely amazing. But to be honest, the bartender, I wouldn't go to their bars to have a drink because they were boring. They were terrible as a bartender, as in like, I'm not going to hang out with you and have a drink. because I'll fall asleep. But your drink was very good. You did the right things. You used the right ingredients. You told us a story of why you created this drink. So a lot of competitions is not about the best bartender. It's about the best performance. It's about making your cocktail not to lose the competition. And that's a tip I give to bartenders that are looking to try to win these competitions. And the reason why I did those videos, how to lose a cocktail competition, is because I like having fun. I like making people laugh. And when people look at those and they laugh, they say, "Oh, it's funny," and then they realize, like, "Oh, wow, you know what? I actually did this in a competition." I was in the competition. One of my favorite videos is a friend of mine named JJ Goodman. He owns some bars and clubs in London called London Cocktail Club. And this competition, it was a mixology competition. And I said to him, "Right, we're pretending to be Bacardi Legacy." I said, "Right, you have 3 minutes to make your Bacardi Legacy cocktail." And he goes, "Right, okay, 3 minutes." And he starts flaring. He flares and he does some good flaring and things like this. And he flares for about 2.5 minutes. And then I say, "You have 30 seconds to make your drink." He's like, oh. He tries to go. And he grabs the Bacardi, puts it into the glass, adds some Coca-Cola in there, squeezes a lime and throws it at me. And I'm like, "What's this?" And he says, "Oh, yeah, it's a Coke essence with a little bit of fizz." I'm like, "It's a Cuban Libre." And he's like, "A Cuban Libre?" I said, "Yeah, it's a Cuban Libre." And then he says to me, "What's a Cuban Libre?" So that was the funny part of that one. He didn't know what a Cuban Libre was because he spent so much time learning how to flare. He didn't understand just a classic cocktail, and then he spent too long making flaring instead of making the actual drink in the competition. But it was a bit of fun. But what it was saying to bartenders, if you have a time limit for your cocktails in a cocktail competition, practice to make sure that cocktail is on time, because that is the easiest way you can lose points. And again, you can make the best drink, but if you go over time and you get a penalty, you lost against a drink that's not as good as yours, but that drink was on time. So just simple things like that. Know the rules, understand the rules, make a cocktail not to lose.
True. Very good points, actually. Very, very good points. Thank you for sharing them. Because I did a lot of competitions myself in life, and always was looking where is that things. And of course, I have my thoughts, and I always for me it's very interesting to listen to other people who had a lot of competitions or judging competition or any kind of that thing, and what they think. So I could improve to in other competitions, and of course anybody watching this podcast who wants to get in competitions or who wants to improve, it's very good point, because when you really know, because sometimes you think it's important are things that are really not so much important, and when you listen, you think, okay, that person said, another person said quite similar things. The third person who is like highly successful said it might be true. Thank you, Jan. And continuing this kind of topic about good bartenders, or like, but now taking out the competition thing, what do you think makes a great bartender different from good bartender? I'm not talking about bad bartenders. Bad bartenders, it's easy to spot, and I mean, but good bartender and great bartender. What's that 1, 2, or 3 point like bullet points? What is the difference? What do you think? What is for you? I mean, what you look? What's for you?
For me, a good bartender, for me personally, a good or great bartender is someone who is comfortable and understands their surroundings, where they're working. They understand it to an extent where you can walk in the bar. It doesn't matter what they're doing, they'll notice you. Yeah, eye contact, or they feel you. Maybe they're looking at someone who's working with them, who's like the maitre d', and that maitre d' has greeted you as a customer, and they've looked at the maitre d' because the new customers come in, and then they look up and it's like, oh, right, oh, it's that person, or it's a new customer. So that's the first thing, is that eye contact and acknowledgement that the customer has come into your home, because that's what the bar is. Secondly, and most importantly, for me, it's how the bartender makes you as a customer feel. Yeah, because it's not about the drinks they make. It's not even about the bar, what it looks like, the environment. It's how you as a bartender makes that customer feel. And here's the reason why, and why I've seen this many times. You can go into a bar, yeah, and by yourself, you sit at the bar, the bartenders acknowledge you, you sit down there and you're talking about a drink, or they even better still, they even know your favorite drink or your favorite spirit. They make you that drink and you have a good time. You have a couple of good drinks. They make you feel good. Yeah. You go away, you come back another day and that same bartender is not there. Another bartender is there, but the new bartender doesn't acknowledge you, doesn't say hello, doesn't even notice you there, makes you wait for a little bit for your drink instead of saying, I'll be with you in a second. I'm really busy at the moment. I've got loads of drink, but I'm going to get you in a right second. Let me put this napkin down and give you a glass of water, but I'm going to make you a drink in a second. Or have a look at the menu. They don't acknowledge you or let you know the situation because they're not comfortable in their environment. That for me is a big difference between a good bartender and a bad bartender, just straight away there. But what it means as a customer is when you go into a bar and you know that a good bartender is there because that good bartender is making you feel like $1 million. Yeah. It doesn't matter how you feel, you're going to feel better when that bartender is making you a drink. Even if they're just pulling a beer, a pint, they're going to make you feel great. It doesn't have to be a cocktail, just make you feel great. Yeah. And that for me is what makes a great bar. It's the bartender that makes a great bar, not how the bar looks and they've spent $1 million on the decoration and that type of stuff. And it's the people, it's the personnel. Because when that bartender leaves, the place is not the same. You don't get the same vibe. You don't get the same energy because that bartender is not there to make you feel like $1 million. So that for me is what makes a great bartender. In summary, the bartender should be a great host. Should be a great host. And that's why some of my favorite people in the industry, they don't even have to be behind the bar. They're on the other side. They're the hosts now. They greet you, make you feel $1 million. Two of my favorite people that are not behind the bar as much that do things like that. Someone like Salvatore Calabrese in London. They call him the maestro.
Yes.
He is a host. There is no host I've seen in the industry that's as good as him. There are others, but it must be. But he can watch and see everything going on. You come in, he's like grabbed you. He remembers your drink. He knows your names. He'll sit you down. He makes you feel like $1 million. You have to spend because you want him to be happy. He's making you feel happy. Ago Perone from the Connaught is exactly the same. A great host. I call him the mini Salvatore because he's very small. But again, a great host that makes you feel like that. There was a bar in London, still in London, but the team was the best team because the weakest member of the team used to be a great host. That was the weakest member. It was a bar called Artesian. Yeah. Langham Hotel. And this is when you had people like Alex Cretana, Simone Caparo, I can't remember his surname, Simone. You had Rudy Carroll as well. And you had who went to Singapore in a gin joint. I forgot his name. Ramon. I forgot his name now. He's going to slap me when he sees this, but he's going to slap me. He says, "Ian, you forgot my name." But it had four great bartenders that all made you feel like $1 million. So whoever's not working, you felt that way. And that's the reason why that bar was voted the best bar in the world 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row. Because people felt like these guys are looking after us. And when they weren't there, it didn't feel the same. When they all left the same day, all of them, the very famous day when they won the world's best bar and all the staff left, the following day, people went into the bar, it just didn't feel the same because it was about the bartenders, the personnel. It wasn't the flashy menu and the £1 million they spent on the decor or the expensive hotel where it was. It was about the bartenders. So in answer to the question, a great bartender is a great host, a great entertainer, makes you feel like $1 million. And if they can make good drinks as well, wow, even better. Even better. As a bonus, they're making great drinks as well that you can go back and really enjoy. But yeah, you have to be a host, a great host behind the bar. And it'll only really work if you're in a bar that you can engage in customers. If you're unfortunate, if you're stuck in a bar where you don't get to talk to the customers or the customers can't sit at your bar, then I think the actual establishment is missing a trick. I'm not a big fan of bars where you can't sit at the bar, where you can't engage in the bartender. If you can sit at the bar, if you can go in the bar by yourself and not feel alone or by yourself, then it's a good bar. If you feel alone by yourself because it's only table service and you can't sit at the bar and engage in the bartender, then for me, I think that particular bar is missing a point. I'm not saying it's a bad bar. I just prefer bars where you can sit at the bar and engage with the host, the bartender.
Yeah, that's one of the points. I really understand. When remember when I wasn't even a bartender yet, or didn't even know that I would ever be. I also like to come when I come to the bar. I like to be by the bar. If I go to the bar, I go to the bar. Where is the bar?
Yeah, of course. I want to sit I want to sit at the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Bartender work and have fun.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, on the other hand, we have a very nice example. Like, I mean, maybe very small, but I know for sure, like Nightjar didn't have things by the bar and still was one of the best bars in the world with really, really nice bartenders. So always could be some exceptions, but
there's always exceptions.
You still want to sit by the bar. Yeah, that's.
Still think Nightjar could have been better if you could sit at the bar, but there's always exceptions to the rule.
Probably that was missing there. Just number one.
That's true. That's right. And in fact, the bartender, I couldn't remember his name from Artisan, was Roman Foltan. So Roman, if you are listening to this, I'm sorry I forgot your name for a second. He left there and went on to set up the massive gin bar in Singapore, the one with the largest gin collection.
Some pictures somewhere.
Like 1,000 different gins inside there. Crazy.
Crazy. Wow, very nice points. And it's very important because the more people I talk, the more we say that bartending is more about the hosting, not about mixing drinks. And I think it's also many bartenders have to learn this. I know myself, when I started bartending, it was about just bartending, everything. And then little by little, I understood and learned, and I'm still learning how to host everything, because have to change this transition in my head had to happen, and now to train that it's not just about drinks. Drinks are important, as you say.
Drinks are important.
Knows how to make with drinks. That's perfect. So
I've never gone back to a bar just because of the drinks. The drinks could be amazing, but I've never gone back to a bar because of the drinks. I've gone back to the bar because the staff have been amazing and the drinks have been good as well. So I've gone back. I've gone back to some bars where I'm like, oh, the drinks are terrible, but the staff are really good.
I'll drink beer.
I drink a beer in a shop. I have a beer in a shop because I've had great time inside there.
True, very, very true. I totally agree that, and I'm hearing that a lot from highly successful people. So that must be true, definitely. Okay, and it was very interesting to talk to you and hear your story. And now for the end, I have one question for you, actually.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, would you like to share your vision for yourself in 10 years? What would you like to achieve? You already achieved a lot, Universal Brand Ambassador of Rum Category, It's like, where else to go when you are a Universal Brand Ambassador?
I mean, to be honest, one of the things I'd love to do, and it's something that's come up in a conversation very recently, is to help set up, not my own, but to help set up a rum distillery in the African continent. I've always wanted to, because the rum I've just launched with some friends this year is a rum from Africa and the Caribbean. So we're bringing in rums from Africa and then blending that with Caribbean rums. But Africa as a continent it's got so much sugarcane there and molasses and so much great raw products and raw materials. But because of unfair trading by the West, Africa seems to get exploited a lot. So I'd love to be able to go there and work with some locals there to create a rum distillery, an amazing rum distillery that in the future could be one of the go-to rums of the world, as good as some of the rums in the Caribbean, because the infrastructure is there, the people are there, the raw materials there, the know-how's there. It's just that it needs to be coerced and sent into the right way. And I love to be a part of that history for the rum category, because I feel that is a trick that's been missed at the moment by the world. This raw essence of what West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, North Africa. Although North Africa is a little bit more drier heat and not as much rain there, so maybe sugarcane is not growing as much up there. But wherever sugarcane is, growing sugarcane and having distilleries close by and creating products there that are as good as the Caribbean. So I'd love to be able to be a part of that in the next few years historically, and then also with my brand that I've created, this new brand, Equiano, is for that to grow. And to help educate people about the category of rum, because although I've created a brand, I'm still going to be promoting rum as a category. I still want people to drink quality rums, regardless if it's from Jamaica, Barbados, Guyana, Trinidad, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Puerto Rico, Nicaragua, Panama. So many different places where great rums are being made. Around the world, Venezuela, I don't want to miss those guys out. But there's a lot of people that don't understand these rums and the differences from these rums. So to get people to understand and drink the differences of rums, but also define rums by the region of where they're made. That's the thing. That's the big thing. So if I if somebody orders a rum in a bar, in a restaurant, and they say, I want a Jamaican rum, you get a Jamaican rum. You don't just go into a bar and say, I want a rum. Because if you went into a bar and say, I want a whiskey, any good bartender is going to say, what do you like? Scotch, Irish, Japanese, American bourbon, American rye, Canadian. But if someone comes and asks for a rum, the first thing a bartender says is white, gold, or dark. And that's wrong.
Usually, yeah.
You need to be saying, would you like a Jamaican? Would you like a Barbadian? Would you like a Puerto Rican? Would you like an agricole from Martinique or Guadeloupe? That's what we should be saying as bartenders, and that's what we need to be educating our customers. So one of my jobs over the next 10 years, as you say, is to get all bartenders defining rums by where they're made, just the same way as they do with whiskey. And then once you've defined where they're made, then you can talk about the color of what they look like, or the types of still, whether it's a pot still or column still, and those types of stuff. So it's for rum to be treated with respect, like whiskey is treated with respect. That's where I hope to be in 10 years' time, to be part of that.
Oh, that's great. I would like to know about rums myself, like that much.
Rum Fest.
I will. So that's definitely, because I really wish to know more. It's very, very, very interesting vision what you have, and it's really because Africa is a very interesting continent for my. I was also thinking that Africa has a huge potential in different areas and industries, and of course drinks is as well, because it's unexplored yet. Like
they grow mezcal in South Africa.
Sorry.
They're growing agave in South Africa. Yeah,
really?
They can't call it agave, so they can't call it tequila, they can't call it mezcal, but they're growing agave in South Africa because they have the terroir to do it. But again, imagine that having what's called an agave spirit from South Africa. It couldn't be called tequila, but could taste as good as tequila. Why not? Why not?
Why not? No, that's very interesting. Yeah, and I really wish you this vision to come through even faster. And I would definitely be one of those who will drink that rum.
Yeah, I'll make sure I'll send some to you.
Distillery that you will establish there. And one more question. By listening to you, I came up with one more question. You know, what's your favorite style of rum?
Okay.
Country, like when you say is there, I understand that probably you could find some very amazing rums that you love from all the regions experience.
Yeah.
But let's say one that, you know, the one what would you take to Mars if you could take just one?
If I could only take one rum to Mars,
Yeah.
it'll be even though it's a podcast you can't see, but you might be able to see it if we show the video. Is this rum? That's the rum I would take to Mars.
And nephew. Yeah.
Ray and nephew, Ray and nephew overproof. It's a rum from Jamaica, blended rum, 63% alcohol by volume, or 126 proof in America. This is the first rum I ever drunk when I was like 4 days old. My grandmother gave me a sip. This will be the last rum I'll ever drink as well. If I'm on the deathbed, I'm lying down, I say, bring me a little bit of Ray and nephew to have a drink. I'll have a sip of that.
Cool.
This is the king of the rums, Uncle Ray and nephew. That'll be the first and the last rum I'll drink. So this Jamaican rum, being a Jamaican, and this is part of my DNA as such. But in regards to rums in general, there are 3 rums that I would see as my favorite, and that's the one in my glass, the next one, and a free one.
Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you. That's a good point. Okay, thank you, Ian, for sharing your knowledge, your experience, and your wisdom. It was my last question for today. Even I would have a lot of questions about drums, but that's probably for some next day, or maybe when we will meet in Rum Festival, because the idea of this podcast is to inspire people, more inspire than educate. Educational, of course, education comes together, but at first it was to inspire people, and more education will come in some other podcast. Maybe maybe we will arrange some educational podcast with you.
Yeah, we can do that.
About drums, to know myself and to share with people who watch my channel to know more about drums, because it's an amazing category and it's my favorite. If I had to choose one category, I would definitely choose rum. Take to the Mars. Still in search for my favorite rum. I have favorites, but I mean the favorite, I still have a lot of to taste.
All right, okay. So I've still got more to taste as well. So that's why I can never ever say my favorite, because it might be to come.
True, very true. So thank you very much for sharing your story. It was really inspiring. It was really interesting to hear. And I believe that everybody who will be watching this podcast will really get some really brilliant ideas, and will hear some things that most successful people say, and then they'll say, that should be true. Now I'll follow that path. So thank you, everybody watching this podcast. And I just want to remind that I'm trying to bring this podcast once a week, just to inspire you to become better bartenders and better people. So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Ian. And I'll see you in Miami.
Yeah, see you in Miami.
In February.
In February.
Bye.
Rum Congress. All right. See you later. Ciao.